Texas Math Mundo audience, are we in store for a spectacular treat today? In the house is Dr. Hortensia Soto of Colorado State University and also the president of the Mathematical Association of America. She shares with us an incredible tale of her journey through the mathematical world. I'm so appreciative to have her here. Dr. Hortensia Soto. Let me take a quick moment and ask that if you enjoy this content, that you please hit the subscription button and the notification bell, that you leave a comment below, and you smash that like button. It really helps me out with the YouTube algorithm. Let's spread this joy, let's spread this beauty to as many people as possible. Dr. Hortensia Soto, president of the Mathematical Association of America, right ahead. My name is Saul Abdu, and this is Texas Math Mundo. Texas Math Mundo audience, are we in store for a treat today? In the house, Dr. Hortensia Soto. Dr. Soto is a professor at Colorado State University. Her primary research interest is in mathematics education, where she has published many papers. Her educational background includes a bachelor and master's degree in mathematics education from Chadron State College in Nebraska, a second master's degree in mathematics at the University of Arizona. She completed a PhD in educational mathematics at the University of Northern Colorado. She is the president of the Mathematical Association of America. The MAA is a professional society that focuses on mathematics accessibility at the undergraduate level. The association publishes multiple journals, including the American Mathematical Monthly, the most widely read mathematical journal in the world. The MAA sponsors numerous competitions for students, including the William Lowell Putnam competition for undergraduate students and the American Mathematics competition for middle school and high school students. Through the AMC series, outstanding students are identified and invited to participate in the Mathematical Olympiad program. Ultimately, 6 high school students are chosen to represent the United States at the International Mathematics Olympiad. And these are just a scant few of the many contributions that the association makes to the math world. Dr. Soto has won numerous awards, including at the University of Northern Colorado. She was the recipient of the College of Natural Science and Health Sciences Excellence in Faculty Research Mentor at the graduate level, and she received the Excellence in Service Award. The MAAA has recognized her talents as well. She received the Burton W. Jones Distinguished Teaching Award, MAA Rocky Mountain Section, the MAA Meritorious Service Award, and she was the first Hispanic person to receive the MAA Deborah and Franklin Tieper Heimo Award for Distinguished College or University Teaching of Mathematics. And this is amongst many honors. She is featured in a chapter of the book Testimonios, Stories of Latinx and Hispanic Mathematicians, where she shares a fascinating tale of triumph over various obstacles. In her mathematical and personal journey, she's traveled from humble beginnings to reach great professional heights. It is my great honor to welcome our venerable and distinguished guest, Dr. Hortensia Soto. Welcome.
Well, thank you. Thank you for that great introduction, Saul. I really appreciate you inviting me to be part of this, and I'm looking forward to our conversation this morning.
Oh, the pleasure is mine. I'm looking forward to it. What a story, what a story. Let me begin by asking you, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm in a good place.
Great, awesome. And we're going to delve into your various roles, but I do want to ask, is it all work and no play? How are you having fun? Do you have any hobbies or interests?
Oh gosh, that question is always so embarrassing to answer because, my work for the most part is kind of my play. I'm in a great place that I really enjoy what I do. And so for the most part, yes, my work is my play, and I have other things that I like to do. I love to bike. I like to hike. A big part of my day is ensuring I get to my yoga class and meditation. So those are things that I like to do in terms of hobbies.
Awesome. So your work is your passion?
I love what I do. Yeah, that is a big part of my passion, but I wouldn't say it's the only passion I have. But yeah, I'm very passionate about what I do.
All right. I first read your story through that book, Testimonials, and you share such a fascinating tale. So let's start off with, where are you from, born and raised, and what is your cultural heritage?
So I was born in Belén del Refugio, Jalisco, Mexico, and we immigrated to the United States when I was 1. And so I was raised in a rural area of Morrill, Nebraska. So it's in the western part of Nebraska. And I very much identify as a Mexican woman.
Oh, wow, okay. When did you realize that you had talent for mathematics?
I don't know that I know that yet. I can tell you that I love it and it's fun. And the talent really has come through work. It's not like this natural thing I was born with, or that it's like no different than recognizing that, oh, I'm good at this sport, or I'm good at playing this instrument. I just got to a point where I really realized that I love doing it and I like putting the work that it takes to get good at it. So I wouldn't say that I've thought I've had a talent at it. I've known that I like doing it and I'm not afraid to put in the extra time to get better at it.
Okay, so some solid work.
Oh gosh, a lot of solid work. I always say that I started dedicating 3 hours of math time and doing math homework when I was in high school. I mean, it's like some people would, go to their after school sport practice. I went to I got to do my math homework practice.
Awesome. Even though you immigrated at a very early age, you do identify as a Mexican woman. I was going to ask about your educational journey in rural Nebraska as a Mexican immigrant. How was that journey?
It's interesting to reflect back on that because, first of all, the journey of my education in Western Nebraska is just nothing but beautiful. I had amazing teachers. They just took me under their wing. They took care of me. They made sure I didn't fall behind. My 5th grade teacher was very influential. Up to the 5th grade, I was in the low class because at that time, we were tracked in the low and the high group, and I was in the low group, which made sense. I didn't know how to read. I didn't know the language. I didn't have the skill set the other kids had, but my 5th grade teacher kept me in for recess for some time. I had no idea why she was doing this. I was scared to death she was going to call my parents and tell them I was in trouble, because then I knew I would be in big trouble at home. But I loved her. And so I couldn't understand why I was being kept in to do extra work during recess. And of course I didn't ask. And then one day she said, okay, you don't have to come in during recess anymore. Starting on Monday, you're going to be in the high group. And so she was getting me ready to get caught up so that I could move into that high group. And I cried because I did not want to be in the high group. You know, it was like, to me, the high group meant these were the affluent kids. And I associated affluent with the fact that they were in band and could afford an instrument, and we couldn't do that. So I had a very, very, very narrow view of what affluent meant. But that following Monday, she walked me to the high group class, gave me a hug, and said, "You're going to be okay." And I was.
Cool. Hey, you want to drop a name? What was her name?
Oh yeah, Mrs. Calvert.
All right.
I know all my teachers' names. I had amazing teachers in Morrill, Nebraska. I can't tell you what a great education I got there. And it wasn't about, oh, I was in AP classes or anything like that, because we didn't have that. I got this great education about what it's like to treat people and what it means to really teach. It wasn't about teaching content, it was about teaching people. And I always felt that with every single teacher, every single teacher. That's what my education was like. I had people who cared about me.
And that aspect dwarfs everything else?
Oh, for sure.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, they prepared me. My high school math teacher really prepared me in terms of what it meant to go to college. Like, he didn't collect homework. We had these exams, but he was ahead of his time in terms of pedagogy. We always worked together. He had us work on a problem for a while. We'd present, and then he would wrap up the mathematics associated with that. We were doing oral exams way before that was a thing. He would like take us out into the hall and ask us things and express the ideas verbally instead of in writing. I was so ready for learning independently in a math class at the college level, where again, it was like, oh, we don't turn in homework on a daily basis. I was ready for that because of him.
Wow, awesome. So these people really invested in you.
They invested in everybody.
Okay.
That's just what Morrill, Nebraska is about. I had great teachers there.
Awesome. So you got into our higher educational system and you felt prepared?
Yes, I did.
Awesome. And how was that journey in our higher education system at Chadron State and at University of Northern Colorado?
And the University of Arizona, which I know you read my story. So so I actually went to a 2-year college before Chadron, and I want to give a shout out to that also, Eastern Wyoming College. So I started there, and then I went to Chadron. And at Eastern Wyoming, again, I thought I was going to be a lawyer. I think I might even talk about that in my story. But they recognized I was the one tutoring in math. They recognized how much I loved it. And my advisor said, "Don't you think you should be a math major?" And I said, "Yes, I think I should." And so I went to Chadron. Again, great teachers. Again, people who took care of me. Again, people who nurtured us in other ways besides a math major. And I had a great advisor at Chadron. He was amazing. And he's the one who said, "You should get a PhD." I had no idea what the heck a PhD was, but he encouraged me to go on to grad school. And so all of that, I was in very nurturing situations. I was in small schools. They fit where I came from. And then I went to the University of Arizona, and that was a huge culture shock for me. And as you know, in my story, I struggled a lot there. And it was really hard because nobody knew who I was there. It was weird. It was like somebody flipped the light switch, because all of a sudden I did not know anything. I mean, nothing. I thought, I know I used to be able to write these proofs. I I was the cream of the crop in my little rural community, but then I was at a big school where I was in settings with people who came from much more sophisticated schools. They had pedigree. They just had different experiences than I did. And at that time, I would say, oh, they got a better education than I did. I can't say that now. We got different educations. But I was scared. I totally lost my confidence there.
So, as Hispanics, I think we're very warm and welcoming people. And so was the environment at Arizona State, was it kind of cold and sterile, unwelcoming? What was that part of the issue?
Yes, yes, and yes. I mean, I don't think that they viewed us, and I want to be careful here because I have friends who work there, and I'm in a different place than I was when I was there. Um, like I thought I didn't learn anything while I was there because I couldn't seem to demonstrate anything, and I didn't pass the analysis qualifying exam, which is I had to leave the program because of that. Um, and it took me a long time to be able to say it. And in fact, I didn't want to write that chapter that I was asked to write for testimonials because I didn't want to relive that. And so actually writing that chapter was very healing for me, where I'm like, okay, I'm still okay, even though I wasn't able to get a PhD at the University of Arizona. I did get a PhD. I went to a place where, again, it fit me. It was smaller. They were nurturing. And I met with the grad advisor there. I was like a dog with a tail in between his legs. I was just embarrassed. I was so embarrassed because I'd never failed at anything. I'd never failed in a math situation. Let me just say that. And the advisor, Ricardo Diaz, a Hispanic man, said, wow, you have such a strong math background. And it was like the lights came on. All of a sudden, like stuff started flooding into my head, mathematical stuff. And like in the math classes, I was just like, go, go, go. Proofs would come to my head. And then I could think of a second way to prove things. And I couldn't do that at the University of Arizona. I was so scared and felt like I didn't fit in, like I just didn't belong there.
Thank you for sharing that vulnerability. Because, I just recently had a discussion with Dr. Tapia from Rice about the struggles that our underrepresented minorities encounter at these elite academic institutions. And so imagine others hearing your story and that their emotions are not foreign, it's common and stuff like that. So I really appreciate you sharing that vulnerability.
Thank you. Like I said, it took me a long time to say it. And then once I wrote it down, I'm like, I know I'm not the first one who has failed these exams. I know that.
Sure.
But I think that there's very few of us who are willing to say that out loud and to share that with others.
Yours is particularly powerful because in the end you triumphed. You know what I'm saying? You've triumphed, president of the MAA and all these high professional heights, a professor at Colorado State. So at the end, it's very, you're in a position to share that vulnerability because you've overcome. So I really appreciate it. And you know how many of our students are out there right now encountering those same emotions, feeling those same things that you felt?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I know that they're there. And that's why for me, I feel like, wait a minute, I'm at a place now. I'm at a place in my life. I'm in a place in my career. I'm in a place in my mindset where actually I can do some good by sharing this story. Instead of everybody thinking, oh my gosh, she's just so amazing and everything's been easy, because I hate it when people think, oh, things are easy for you because you're the MAA president. Well, no, it wasn't easy, but I'm in a different space right now where it is important for me to share that. And in fact, one of the things that I always say is that it's my failures. It's through my failures where I have learned the most.
Awesome.
And I think those are the stories that are so important for us to share with students, that just because we fail doesn't mean that we are failures.
So, Dr. Tapia and I discussed about, how woeful the numbers are of underrepresented minorities, like in tier one faculties, for example. So what are the challenges that you confronted as an underrepresented minority, both Hispanic and a woman?
As a faculty member?
Yeah.
That's a really good question. I don't think, I know. So this is my third institution that I've been at. So the first one was a high teaching place. It was an HSI. It is an HSI.
Hispanic Serving Institution, for those who may not.
Hispanic Serving Institution, yeah. And the students got me. They got that I scolded them if they were doing their thing. They got when I would get excited about stuff. And then I went to the second institution, which is in a setting that is predominantly Hispanic. So in terms of the towns, they're very similar, but the institutions were very different. And so it did not have that many Hispanic students. And the students would complain about that I was mean because I would get passionate about something, and it wasn't that I was angry, but they didn't get me.
We're animated when we speak.
Yes, we're excited.
Exactly.
And so they interpreted that as me being angry. And so what I had to learn to do, what I was working on, and I think I actually did this for a long time, probably even as a kid, where I would try to be a white man in the settings. And it was at that school that I realized I don't even know how to be I don't know why I'm trying to be a white man. I'm not even a man, first of all. So to try to be a white man was weird. And I'm not even a white woman. Why am I trying to be somebody I'm not? And I got to the point where I really just wanted to embrace who I am and what I bring to the table. And what that requires is that I have to explain who I am now. And so I don't know that I have to, but it's the way that I let people know who I am so that they don't think that, oh, she's angry, when I'm really just being passionate.
Oh, absolutely. You probably thought the behavior of a white male is probably the optimal behavior to maneuver through these institutions.
Yes, exactly. That if I act like that, then I'm going to be successful. And I'm like, I can't be successful when I'm trying to be somebody I'm not.
Interesting point. That's an interesting point. Wow. How is life as a professor? What do you do?
I have the best gig in town. So our job really consists of three areas. So there's the teaching part, our research, and of course the service. And for me, because of my field and the research that I do, it's difficult for me to disentangle all of those areas. They very much feed into one another. So like what I do in the classroom setting informs my research, but my research informs what I do in the classroom. And of course, because of my involvement with the Mathematical Association of America, that is a profession where we serve. We are about serving, and we use mathematics as a vehicle to serve. So I spend a lot of time with that. I spend a lot of time with students. I spend a lot of time counseling. In fact, students will always say, I'm here for my counseling session. I spend a lot of time listening. And in terms of my research, I'm in a field where I intersect mathematics, teaching, and cognition. And so in particular, the lens that I use for my work is embodied cognition, which is a philosophy that hypothesizes that we learn through our body. And it makes so much sense for me as a Mexican woman. So I love that philosophy. And so what I do is I create learning environments. I call them playgrounds, where students engage in some sort of play with materials or imagination, and then they describe the experience that they're having or what they're learning in that playground area. And then what I do is I mathematize that whole situation for them. And so I do that in the classroom and I do that in research settings. And so I have a lot of fun just reflecting on how I think about concepts, and then I create the environment. And so what I'm doing is I'm really imposing my understanding of concept onto students, but then I give them opportunities to think about how could they extend this to their own life, or how do they see a mathematical concept around them that is different from what I proposed.
Okay.
Does that help?
Yeah. So I'm a high school math teacher. Is
Yeah.
your job, is the goal, is the vision to make me better?
Yeah. Yeah. And so I work with prospective teachers. I do a lot of professional development also, kindergarten through college teachers. And I go back to Western Nebraska to do this quite a bit also.
Wow. Back home.
Go back home. And I love doing that. So it's a way to give back to that community. And I'm doing that in February, I think. Yeah, February I go back and do that. But what I'm going to do is I meet with the kindergarten and 12 teachers all in one sitting. And so I have to create, again, environments, tasks that are accessible to all of them, but where they get to bring in their mathematical knowledge to tackle it in different ways.
Awesome. Powerful, especially if that ultimately reaches the students. So
Yes, that's always my goal.
awesome. So, President of the Mathematical Association of America. It's such a wonderful, wonderful organization. How did you first get involved with the MAA?
My college professor, my advisor at Chadron State. So I got my master's there and I was going to look for a job. And he said, well, you need to join the MAA because they have this newsletter called The Focus, and they're going to have jobs there that will be suited for you. And I joined right away. So that was back in 1989, I believe. And I found a job description there. I applied. I asked my advisor to write me a letter. And he said, well, where else are you applying? I said, well, just this place. He goes, well, don't you think you should be applying to other places? I said, no, you said I was going to find my job in this newsletter, the Focus. And I did. This job looks perfect for me. He's like, okay. And I said, you said that's where I'm going to find my job. So this is my job. And sure enough, I got that job.
Oh, wow.
And anyway, so that's how I became a member of the MAA. The way that I really became engaged is through one of their professional development programs that they have, Project Next, so new experiences for teachers. And it's a professional development for recently minted PhDs or postdocs, but it's really before you have your tenure track job or in the second year of it. And again, it's people. People just kind of take care of you. And Jim Leitzel and Chris Stevens, who were the founders of this program, invited me to get involved and to create the activities for the upcoming meeting, because generally what they do is the fellows then create sessions for the new group or for the incoming group. And so they asked me to do that. And from there, it just kind of spiraled. And again, it's always people. It's people who took me in and nurtured me.
Awesome. All the way to president of the Mathematical Association of America. What is your role as president? What does the president do?
Yeah, gosh. Well, there's the day-to-day things, like, for example, or maybe it's not day-to-day, but for sure I lead the meetings when the board meets. At our annual meeting of MAA Math Fest, which is in August, I mingle with people. I introduce people. I welcome people. So my job, I think part of it is to be the face of the MAA, not the face, because we have so many great faces of the MAA. But really to serve as a leader, as a voice, and to promote the mission, vision, and values of the association. And I meet at sections, so I go to different section meetings and again, just promote the work that we do and share the opportunities to become engaged and to serve the community. Because I always think about it in terms of serving the MAA really means serving the mathematical community. And it's just that the MAA is a channel and provides different mechanisms for us to do that. And so we can propose ideas of like, hey, we'd like to have a webinar on this. And so that's really serving the mathematical community, but the MAA helps to facilitate all of that.
So are there any major initiatives that excite you the most currently?
Yeah, so we have a lot actually, but we're working on our new strategic plan. So spearheading that right now. And I'm excited about the focus of and the intent that we're going into our strategic plan. And it's not like it's new ideas, it's new strategies. And so I'm excited about that.
Cool.
So,
awesome. Yeah. I do want to take a moment to talk about some social issues if you're willing. For example, from your unique perspective, what is your perspective on the upending of affirmative action by the United States Supreme Court?
That's a really good question, and I really appreciated that you sent me that question in advance. So first of all, let me just say that like I'm a girl with a half where the glass is half full. So I'm not a half empty kind of person. I'm a half full kind of person. So I think one of the great things about affirmative action is that those of us who are from underrepresented groups had an opportunity to be in a space that wasn't designed for us. It opened doors for us where we got to be there. And so that we got to have a voice and we got to learn how the game is played. And I think that once we learn how the game is played, then we have an opportunity to change the game. And so that we become players in all of this. And of course, some viewed, and let me just give you, before I say about what others might perceive regarding affirmative action, I will say that for me, at sometimes I felt like, oh, I'm the token Mexican. I got hired because of affirmative action. And that then we began to doubt ourselves, I think, I'm just speaking for myself here, that why were we really hired? Is it because of the skill set that we bring? Is it because of the people skill set that I bring? Is it because of really the different sort of educational background that I bring? So is it really welcoming my whole self, or is it welcoming because I check a box, or have I been hired because I check a box and now I have to assimilate into this system? Kind of going back to me trying to be a white man. I think for a long time I did that because of that. Sure. Like, yes, I check a box, but I am expected to act this way.
Sure.
And so I think some viewed affirmative action is that, well, wait a minute, what about our white people and our white men? How now it's hurting them? And so that friction comes from that. And at the same time, I do believe that affirmative action, if nothing else, brought awareness to the fact that, and not only awareness, but experiences that diversity is actually a really good thing. Having diverse ideas is a really good thing. It just makes systems stronger if we're open-minded about it. Now, with the end of affirmative action, one thing that I thought of when it first happened, I thought, well, at least some people who are in power already are aware of this and recognize the value of diversity and of hiring those of us from underrepresented groups. So that's my like glass half full perspective of like, oh, there's already awareness. It's already like built in, part of the culture. And at the same time, it saddens me.
Do you think it was prematurely ended?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay. Sure.
I do.
There was still more to be done through there.
Oh, there's so much to be done.
Sure.
There is still so much to be done. And so that, I guess, is my worry, is that, yes, we are making progress, but I think it's going to be too easy for those people who were secretly against affirmative action to go right back to the views that they had, because valuing diversity, valuing diverse perspectives, valuing the whole person, that somebody from underrepresented group, what they bring to the table, that doesn't happen overnight. That sort of thing takes years to transform. It's not like we're just changing people's minds. We need to really, it takes a transformation, not an overnight change. And so I think that if we're not paying attention to it, and we're not forced to pay attention to it, that we're going to go right back to where we were.
So there's the dangerous possibility that our presence, our voices could be muffled or muted?
Easily.
Wow, interesting. So now I want to make something very clear. I think you're such a powerful image, but not just for underrepresented minorities. You're a powerful image for Asians, for whites, for blacks, for Latinos. You are a powerful image. But in particular, you've reached such great professional heights. In particular, you are a powerful image for our young Latinos and underrepresented minorities. What message would you like to give them?
I'm always inspired by the youth. So I appreciate that you want me to give the youth a message, because I always feel like they're the ones giving me messages. I learned so much from them, and I'm hopeful, and I'm a glass half full kind of person because of our youth. And I guess the thing I would want them to know is that there are always, always, always people who will have your back, and they don't need to look like you. There are just good people in this world. And I can say for myself, I had very, very few. Growing up, I never had a Hispanic person as an educator. I didn't have one until I got to the University of Arizona. And I want to give a shout out to her, Anna Mantilla. She was the first person who actually pronounced my name correctly. Like, I always knew when a teacher was getting to my name because there was a long pause. And she said it perfectly, Hortensia Soto. And I loved her that second.
Awesome.
And then I had Ricardo Diaz at the University of Northern Colorado, and who he said, I had such a strong math background. They had such a huge impact. But those are the only two Hispanics I knew in terms of my education. And still there were people taking care of me. And they weren't from my background. And so that's what I want our youth to know, that people don't have to look like you and have your same background in order to nurture you, in order to move you forward, in order to open a door for you, in order to lead you through that door and hold your hand and continue on to the next door. People don't need to look like us to help us, and therefore people don't need to look like us in order for us to help them. And I think that's what's really important.
From your perspective, what is the outlook for underrepresented minorities? Is the cup half full, or in light of the affirmative action upending, is it looking bleak?
Mm, I'm not going to say looking bleak. I'm not going to say that.
But it damaged it.
I'm going to say that we still have lots of work to do.
Okay.
And I was just at a conference recently, and I heard this line from Jamal Matthews, and he's a black man at the University of Michigan. And this just like, I was like, wow, I'd never thought about it like that. But he's like, we're trying to create belonging in spaces designed for us not to belong. So if we think about educational systems, they weren't designed for black students, they weren't designed for brown students, they were designed for white students. And we're trying to fit in. And there's a lot of white people who are letting us fit in, and they're letting us bring our whole selves into the space. And there are places that don't want us. And that those spaces are designed they're designed only for an elite type of group. And I think that and I'm not going to speak for the black culture because I don't know enough about that culture. So I don't want to speak from them. I think I'm only going to speak for our Hispanic culture because I know it intimately. We bring something to the table that I think we're not afraid to talk about. And that's our faith. And that's why I refuse to think that it's bleak. I know that we have the power, the strength, the heart to transform things for other groups from underrepresented groups. It's not just what we bring from our brain, it's really what we bring from the heart. And that's what's so powerful about our culture, I think, is that we are heart people. You said that earlier.
That's a great perspective. Faith is central to our culture, and so is family. What role does family have?
Yeah, family is so important. We take care of one another. We support one another. And we come from a culture of we're not individualistic, and our families have taught us that. Because generally we come from a large family, we can't just think about the self. We have to think about the whole group. And these large families that our culture tends to come from allows us to think about the whole instead of the I. Go ahead.
I was going to say, often, like you were an immigrant, I don't know how familiar your family was with the institutions in America. Sometimes we just don't know, coming from. So I don't know, were they pivotal in supporting you, at least emotionally, through your journey?
My dad was, my mom was not. She's a very traditional Mexican woman. A woman does not leave the house until some man comes and asks for her hand. And that's what she was expecting was going to happen with her daughters, and it didn't. Daddy was very, very, very supportive. And part of that is, again, because there is somebody looking after Daddy. And looking after Daddy meant looking after his kids. And that was Art Dinas. He was the man that we worked for. So he was a farmer. Daddy worked for him. And he would tell Daddy, your kids are going to need an education. He was always giving Daddy that message. And so through him, we flourished. We all flourished.
In the book, Testimonials, in that chapter, you mentioned the gratitude list. Would you like to give a shout out to those people on the gratitude list?
Oh my gosh, there's so many. But let me start with my Uncle Lupe and Aunt Victoria, who set it up to bring us to the United States. Art Dinas, who gave Daddy a job, and even though Daddy couldn't speak English. And his wife and their kids. And for sure, all of my teachers, in particular, Mrs. Steele in first grade, who was so patient, Mrs. Calvert from second grade, who taught me patience, and then again, Mrs. Calvert in fifth grade. It was two different Mrs. Calverts. Mrs. Quetzal, my high school English teacher, I babysat for them also. Mr. Ingraham, my high school math teacher, Mr. Cause, my advisor as an undergraduate, and my mom and dad for sure. My mom for really leading us in terms of faith. Daddy, I just always felt his love.
Awesome.
My older sister, who to this day we talk every single day, and I call her the wing beneath my wings. She sacrificed a lot so I could have a lot, and so that I could spread my wings. And my son, because he's a big cheerleader in my life.
Miguel?
Yeah, Miguel. Yep.
Awesome.
He's a big cheerleader in my life, and I'm really grateful to him.
Awesome, 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 awesome. Awesome shout out. Great gratitude list. So where will the future lead you in terms of research, outreach, personally? Where's the future have in store for you?
Well, I don't know that. I don't know the answer to that. I am confident it's going to be something really good.
Well,
I don't know. I try never to say never, because as soon as I say that, the door to never opens, and then I peek into it. But I'm really happy here at Colorado State, and
if your track record is any indication, I expect great things in the future. I expect great things.
Thank you.
Any parting words or final thoughts as we conclude this interview?
I just want to say thank you for doing this. I think it's good for your audience. It was really good for me, and I think events like this, when it's not just the person that you're spotlighting, thinking that we're going to share out. I always learn a lot from just taking time to reflect a little bit, and so I thank you for that.
I thank you. You have such a powerful story. You have you reach such great professional. What a powerful image. In our culture, we have this saying, "Mi casa es su casa," right? If you're ever in Houston, I hope you consider me family. And mi casa es su casa.
Thank you so much, and I will take you up on that. And same if you're ever in Fort Collins, Colorado.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. I appreciate you, Dr. Hortensia Soto. Thank you very much, and farewell.
Thank you.
Wow, what a fascinating story. What a great insight and perspective by Dr. Hortensia Soto. I'm very appreciative. She's the professor at Colorado State University, president of Mathematical Association. Thank you very much, Dr. Soto, for sharing your perspective and your story. Let me take a moment and ask that if you enjoy this content, that you please hit the subscription button and the notification bell, that you leave a comment below, and you smash that like button. Let's spread this joy, let's spread this beauty to as many people as possible. I have plenty of wonderful things in store for this channel, and I truly appreciate your support. My name is Saul Cantu, and this is Texas Math Mundo. Farewell.